the marriage, the honeymoon. I'll be damned, gag me with the spoon. Who loves Papa?
Well, Young Turks, we got not only an awesome show for you, but let me tell you something, okay? This show is substantive. It really is. Today's. The rest of the shows I'm not so sure about. But this is the kind of show that my grandma will watch and then at the end go, whew, that was substantive. Except she's not around anymore. God bless her heart. But before we get started with some serious ass substance, I saw a great sign that I want to share with you guys. On my way into the studio, there was a sign on a building that appeared to be empty. I don't know why it was there, and I don't know what it was about. But it said, "You are here now." And I thought, well, it's really hard to dispute that. You're here now. Yeah, I am, aren't I? Don't it? Okay. Fascinating. It's gigantic. It's not like there was a map and it said, "You're here." All right, anyway. Random things I like to share with you. All right, now here comes the substance. We've got Tea Party Confessional in Playboy magazine. Very, very interesting. A pro and con of Tea Party. It's not just con. There's some interesting pros in there as well. Al Franken goes to war. God damn it, I'll tell you something, man. That Franken's doing an unbelievable job. All right, so we'll get to him in a little bit. And then a great look into what the establishment thinks and whether they're coming after your Social Security or not. So, with that said, let's get started. All right. Let's start with the Tea Party. A guy who's a K Street lobbyist wrote basically an article for Playboy magazine. He labeled it anonymous, so we don't know who he is, right? But he says he's part of the Tea Party movement. And he's very proud to be part of it, and he has some points in there that are refreshing and that put the Tea Party in a very good light. He also admits some things that I think puts the Tea Party in a bad light, but I don't know if he recognizes that or not. So let's get started with both sides. Number one, he says that they are not taking their orders from people like Sarah Palin, that she's way outside the movement, she's just somebody that the press likes to focus on, but that the guy coming out with a lot of the decisions is Breitbart, Andrew Breitbart, who runs BigGovernment.com and a couple of other conservative websites. Now, two things about that. One, I would view that as a good thing if it's true. Two, it's very believable. He's generating a lot of the ideas that then eventually filter down to the politicians like Sarah Palin, who's never had an original idea in her head. But number three, of course, when you see stories like this that are anonymous, be a little skeptical. Who knows, maybe it's a Breitbart guy who's planting the story and then to make Breitbart look bigger. So that's entirely possible and definitely within his bag of tricks. But okay, that's a little interesting. Now, number two, he says that they do not like conspiracy theorists at all. So if you're a birther against Obama, oh, was he really born here or not? You're out. If you're a truther, you're out. Okay, so that's good. That's positive. He said most of the time at the rallies, they aren't really racist and they aren't that angry. Now, again, this is from his perspective. He's a conservative lobbyist in Washington. Now, here comes the interesting stuff. He says, look, they play the inside-outside game. And so a lot of politicians come and get their marching orders from them. They say, hey, what are the talking points? And that group used to be small. Now, apparently the congressmen attending these meetings are getting larger and larger. Funny enough, one of the meetings they had was at the Richard Nixon suite at the Omni Shoreham Hotel, which was the room I was staying right next to when we had our Lib conference in D.C., okay? I wonder if they had the meeting at that time. Could you imagine? I just sneak in a little bit in the middle of a Tea Party meeting, like Forrest Gump. That would have been awesome. Okay, anyway, I tweeted that picture out. So, look, the congressman coming and getting talking points is not that surprising, and I'm not that put off by it. I don't think that's that big a deal. But what's more interesting is that there's lobbyists in the room. And in all these meetings, I'll give you one quote. The worst thing I can say about the Tea Party, this guy says, I work for, is that I can make lots of noise but can't win without professional help. I love the irony of helping run this organization from the St. Regis Bar, which is, of course, one of the fanciest hotels in D.C. Now, I get that they're going to want to pull in some institutional players, and I don't mind if they have the meeting at the St. Regis Bar. What I'm really concerned about is that the Tea Party is being controlled by corporate lobbyists. And if you're a Tea Party activist, that's what you should be most concerned about. If this is all a little game and they're playing on you and they create these talking points that are in favor of corporate America and then they spoon feed it to you, well, then you're being played for a sucker. That's the real point of concern. So now the other concern is that they're instigating things, doing dirty tricks, and one piece of evidence he gives here, he seems to be proud of it, but the Tea Party guys have bought a lot of SEIU shirts, so they're going to go to rallies, and apparently they have gone already, but are planning to go to more with SEIU t-shirts, that's the big labor union, and then cause trouble and pretend that they're with the union. I don't know why he gave up that piece of information, but that's definitely disturbing. And then finally, I think this might be the most telling quote. This is about how they're appealing to the activists. He says, we go for the lowest common denominator. Quote, we're playing to the reptilian brain rather than the logic centers. So we look for keywords and images to leverage the intense rage and anxiety of white working class conservatives. In other words, I talk to the same part of your brain that causes road rage. I mean, there it is. I mean, it's exactly what we've been saying on the show. They're not trying to do logic. That's why we're always frustrated. We're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, or that doesn't connect to that. They don't care. They just want to throw out flash words that cause rage. And who is it for? Look, listen to them. For white working class conservatives. So their target is not unclear. It's very clear. Get those guys who are a little angry to begin with about losing their power and make them angrier. And then have meetings with K Street lobbyists and direct that anger towards helping corporations. Now, he says also, fair, look, that there's disparate groups in here, and some of them are lobbyists, but some are not. Some are very, concerned about conservative ideology, and it's not just one monolith. And it's very convincing what he says about that. It sounds very true. And so, you know what? That gives me a little bit of hope that maybe the Tea Party at some point realizes, hey, wait a minute, why are we at the St. Regis Bar with these lobbyists? Shouldn't we be actually pursuing conservative ideology rather than corporatist ideology, which are totally different things? I hope they come to that realization, but following these guys is not the way to do it. Well, one final thing. He says that they've been doing this for a long, long time, and not the Tea Party stuff, but lobbyists working for conservative organization misdirecting anger. And I'm really very curious about what this guy's motivations are, because he props them up in a lot of ways, and then he gives away a lot of their insider info. I don't know why he did it, but Playboy is a legitimate publication, and they've decided to print him, and apparently they believe he's very much for real, right? So now he says, if you ever got a call saying, hey, so-and-so is for late-term abortion, that was probably me, okay? We're the ones that generate that stuff. And he goes, he says that they do black arts. That's what he literally calls it for some of these Republican tactics. And look, let me come back to one of these things, because there's an example in here that I want to give you where you go, whoa, these are the bad guys. Not the Tea Party guys, the lobbyists, the conservative lobbyists they're working with, okay? So I'll come back to that for you. Now, so that's the Tea Party guys. Now, here comes the other side, Al Franken. I put him on the other side not because they're conservative and he's liberal, but because he's actually appealing to logic and sense. And Al Franken turns out to be one of the smartest senators we have. There's, oh, he's a comedian, oh. And you know what? I heard his show, and we had him on this show, and I've been on his, etc. And of course, you get the sense that he's a smart guy. But honestly, I didn't get a sense of how bright he is and how right he is until he became a senator. And he's just been doing fantastic work in there. And it's not just like blind rage. All right, yeah, progressives, let's go get them. All right. No. He's crafting excellent pieces of legislation that are really hard to argue with. And he's actually managing to even get some conservatives on board, because you go, well, that's just too damn logical. I don't know how to fight against it, right? So now one of that is in the financial reform bill. He gave a speech about the Supreme Court. It was both funny and really smart at the same time. So let me give you a couple of lines from the speech. First, he tells the room, and there he's talking to the American Constitution Society. He says, look to your left, look to your right. Odds are at least 1 out of 3 of you will someday be filibustered by Senate Republicans. Okay, so he's getting the crowd, worked up, and then he gets into the real constitutional issues. He says, I mean, I don't speak Latin, but unless stare decisis means overturn stuff, then maybe it's time for conservatives to stop calling other people dangerous radicals. Okay, now what's he getting at there? Stare decisis is precedent. And these conservatives always say, oh, these radical activist judges, they're overturning precedent. And then the minute they got the opportunity, they overturned every precedent they possibly could. Because they never meant it. They just wanted conservative ideology to win out, not actually judicially conservative, but politically conservative. That's very different. If you're judicially conservative, you believe in precedent. If you're politically conservative, you don't give a damn about precedent or anything else. You just want the final result to be in favor of, the right wing in this country. Okay? And look, you could say that the liberals in the past have been activists and politically liberal. Okay? But this is what the Roberts Court is. So Al Franken is explaining that. So as Al Franken talks to American Constitution Society, he wants to explain to people, hey, listen, this court is affecting your daily lives, this Roberts Court, the Supreme Court that's right-wing now. And you need to understand that. So he has this quote. He said, if you have a credit card, if you watch TV, if you file insurance claims, if you work, in other words, if you participate in American daily life at all, then you interact with corporations that are more powerful than you are. The degree to which these corporations' rights are protected over yours, well, that's extremely relevant to your life. And in case after case, the Roberts Court has put not just a thumb, but a fist on the scale in favor of those corporations. See, now there is a Democratic politician doing something very rare, explaining to people why conservative judicial activism is hurting you in your real life. It's not theoretical. He says, look, they always talk about, late-term abortions and getting the crosses or the menorahs out of the public arena in the public square in your local town. He's like, that's not the real issues. Those are all distractions to say, oh, no, I'm against that. Oh, I'm on your side. He said the real issue is corporate power, which affects your everyday life, versus individual power and individual freedom and protecting you, which is what the government is supposed to be doing, right? Whether it's national defense, the police, or regulations to make sure that corporations take safety regulations, whatever it might be. So, for example, a rig doesn't blow up and spill all over the Gulf of Mexico. He's making the case. The reason I'm so excited about that is because almost no other Democrat does. Here's what Obama should be doing every day. He should explain what judicial activism is, as Al Franken is doing here. And he should make it clear how it affects your everyday life. It's such a breath of fresh air to see this speech. You should look at the whole thing. I'm going to tweet out the video of the speech for you guys on our account, twitter.com/theyoungturks, so you can watch it. It's fantastic. And it's just an absolute relief to see a Democrat finally doing his job and making the case they should have been making for the last several decades and never got around to. All right. Now, when we come back, more substance.
Now pop the cork and steam the Vega and get lit. What? Introducing.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Now, there's a new report out by Citigroup saying how much the different banks are going to lose if this current, what they consider strong version of financial reform passes. It says some banks, like Goldman Sachs, for example, could lose a quarter of their profits. Now, they say this as a giant warning sign, like, oh my God, can you believe it? The banks will lose a quarter of their profits. I don't see it as a warning sign. I see it as something that's fantastic. Now, why? It's not because we don't like corporations or we don't want them making money. That's ridiculous. If Nike sells more sneakers, I got no problems. If Bill Gates sells more windows, I got no problems. And that's not the issue at all. The issue is, does their profit making affect us at all, the taxpayers, right? So, for example, when BP makes more money drilling for oil wherever, okay, that's how it works, and we all pay for the oil, and that's capitalism. But if they don't take proper safety precautions and then they spill oil all over the Gulf of Mexico, well, then that affects us. So if it means that they're going to make a little less profit because they're actually doing safety checkups as they should, well, then I want to make a little less profit because it affects us. We're involved in the decision. You see what I'm saying? So now let's go to the banks. what are the 3 reasons why I'm happy that they would be making less of a profit if financial reform passed, right? As, relatively strong version. 1, they would get rid of some of the overdraft fees, the late fees, etc. These are quiet ways that they wind up taking a lot of your money. They say, oh, no, don't worry. If the overdraft happens, you'll be covered. Your check won't bounce. But what they don't tell you is how much they're going to charge you for that. And it's very deceptive, and it's in the details they don't tell you about. And they make hundreds of millions and sometimes billions of dollars doing that. So now they want to do protection on that so that you keep more of your money. Now, if the banks make less profit, that means they got to take less from you. That's a good thing, not a bad thing, okay? Now, number 2, as the Citigroup report explains, hey, you know what? They might actually stop us from taking risks with the depositors' money. So in which case, we'd make less money because we couldn't use that as capital. Fantastic! Why do we want them taking risks with the money we deposited in their banks? How is this a bad thing? Okay, point number 3. They say, well, if this reform passes, especially with that derivatives amendment in there, then we won't be able to take as much risk, and hence we won't make as much money. What part of this sounds bad? That sounds fantastic as well. Because if they take a lot of risk to make a lot of money in the short run for themselves, they're endangering our money. So don't cry them a river over this report. This report is great. Now, if the congressman cared at all about representing the taxpayers, they'd look at that report and thank you very much for letting us know exactly what it is. Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. Instead, of course, the congressman will look at that report and go, oh my God, I'm so sorry, banks, I didn't mean to cost you any money. Please, please take the depositors' money, take risks, or give them any kind of fees you like, etc. All right, now maybe I'm being a little too tough on the congressman because there are going to be some reforms in this legislation. Of course, the real question is how much. And look, let me lay out one other marker for you guys. If they actually keep the Volcker rule in there, because it's not settled by any stretch of the imagination right now, they're still fighting over it, and they keep the derivatives amendment of Blanche-Lincoln in there, in the final bill. Now, I say, and they kept the Franken amendment, but it looks like they already lost that one. But if they kept those 3 and you got the audit of the Fed and you got a Consumer Protection Agency, hey, you know what? It's nowhere near perfect. I don't think it's anywhere near good enough because it still doesn't really contain leverage and capitalization, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll take it. I'll take it. That's a half loaf I can take, okay? My problem is if they lose the Franken Amendment and they lose the Derivatives Amendment and they lose the Volcker Rule, well, then it was a joke. You see what I'm saying? So let's see what's in there at the end, but we got our eyes wide open as to what's going on here. And of course, by the way, another great thing in there was that shareholders, the people who own the companies, were going to get to have more say in how their companies are run, but Barack Obama killed that. So that's no longer in there. Oh, by the way, in case you don't know, of course, Barack Obama was also trying to kill the Derivatives Amendment of Blanche-Lincoln. He's dead set against it. Now, I used to say Geithner, and I will still from time to time, but don't make any mistake about it. It's definitely Obama. Okay, Obama hired Geithner, and if he doesn't know what Geithner's doing, then he's a fool. Okay, and the reality is he does, and he loves taking that corporate money. All right, now, should I do one more piece of Obama bashing? All right, we'll save that till later. Change. All right, let's see how that bill turns out, okay? Look at me, I'm an open-minded guy. Okay, I was on Radigan's show today. I surprised them by saying I would take a compromise bill with a lot of problems in it, which was the NRA bill. We talked about it on the show before. Because, come on, let's go. If the core of the bill is okay, I'll take it. I'm practical, okay? But if they have no core, then there's no point to it. Then it's a joke. All right, so now, look, I got to get to this next story here because it's very important. And I'm going to give you a long video here, so I'm going to test your patience a little bit, but I think it's very, very important. That's why I'm going to give it to you. Now, what happened is you've got the Social Security Commission, and I'm sorry, that's a funny Freudian slip. You have this deficit commission, and they're trying to figure out how to lower the deficit. Now, if they were honest and they were actually considering cutting defense or raising taxes, especially on the wealthy, and limiting entitlements, okay, look, then that's a fair conversation. Let's do some give and take, and let's not get caught up in politics, okay? But it doesn't look like that's what they're doing. It looks like their main focus is cut Social Security and Medicare, which is outrageous. So then you've got a guy by the name of Alex Lawson. He's with Social Security Works, and he's going to get out there and talk to one of the commissioners, Alan Simpson. Now, on the one hand, I like that Alan Simpson is being very frank, and he's cursing, and he's blunt, okay, but that's good. At least he's having a bit of a debate as he appears to be disdainful to a person who's asking him perfectly legitimate questions. But nonetheless, at least we had that conversation. I think this is fantastic. I think this is real journalism. Now, just so you know, you have context for this conversation. Social Security has been running a giant surplus for decades now. That's how it was built. Except we don't have that surplus because they injected it into the regular budget and already spent it. So Bush said, as an example, and they spend it on entitlements, they spend it on defense, they spend it on tax cuts, they spend it on everything, okay? So as an example, Bush said, oh, our budget's not that bad. Look, Clinton handed me a surplus, so I can do the biggest tax cuts in United States history, right? But actually, the budget wasn't that. They were taking it out of the Social Security surplus. So that's what Lawson's going to ask Simpson about. It's a great set of questions. Look at this interaction. I think it gives you an exact sense of where the establishment stands. We'll come back and talk about it. Here you go.
How'd it go today? Mainly focused on Social Security today? I just wanted to follow up.
Solvency.
Uh-huh.
The key is solvency.
And what about adequacy? Are you focusing on adequacy as well?
Sure, we have to take care of the lesser in society.
Mhm.
I don't know where you get all this crap.
Well,
Where do you get all the crap you come up with?
well, I just wanted, that's
I'll
what I
tell you
wanted,
we're doing
that's what I
here.
wanted to ask
We're
you.
well,
Uh-huh.
let me
Yeah.
give it to you before you ask it.
Uh-huh.
We're trying to take care of the lesser people in society,
Uh-huh.
like we always have in this country,
Uh-huh.
and do that in a way without getting into all the flash words that you love to dig up, like
Uh-huh.
cutting Social Security, which is bullshit. We're not cutting anything in
Uh-huh.
there. We're not cutting anything.
Okay.
We're trying to make it solvent. It will go broke in the year 2037.
Well, what do you mean by broke? Do you mean that the surplus is going to go out and then it'll only be able to pay 75% of its benefits?
Me instead of babbling?
Uh-huh.
In the year 2037, instead of getting 100% of your check, you're going to get about 75% of your check. If we touch nothing. So if you'd like that, fine. You'll be picking with the chickens yourself when you're 65. So we want to take care. We're not balancing the budget on the backs of senior citizens.
Uh-huh.
That's bullshit.
Uh-huh.
So you've got that one down. So as long as you got those two things down that you can't play with anymore, that we're not balancing the budget of the United States on the backs of poor old seniors, and we're not cutting anything, we're stabilizing the system.
Okay.
Now, you go ahead and ask whatever question.
Thank you for being so frank. But
That's what I am.
my question is, raising the retirement age is actually an across-the-board benefit cut.
There are 15 different options being
Mhm.
discussed in here today.
Right. Okay.
And why nail one of them? I mean,
I was
if
just-
you like to get one, get
Well-
the one that pisses your people off.
No, I was actually going because Alice Rivlin was just on CNBC saying that was one of the favored methods.
There are
So.
15 of them in there.
Uh-huh.
All of them have to do with stabilizing the system,
Okay.
which we are told is insolvent. It's paying out more than it's taking in.
Right now?
Yes.
But what about the $180 billion in surplus that it brings in every
There
year?
is no surplus in
Okay.
there. It's a bunch of IOUs.
Okay, that's what I wanted
It's
to actually get at.
$2.5 trillion bucks of
Uh-huh.
IOUs, which have been used to build the interstate highway system and all the things people have enjoyed since it was set up.
2 wars, tax cuts for the wealthy. Uh-huh.
You pick your crap and I'll pick the real stuff. It was to do the highway system. It was to run America.
Mhm.
And those are IOUs in there. Now, there's not enough coming in every month. You're paying in every month for me.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. I really
Right.
do.
Which is how the system was set up, right?
That's right.
It's
Now-
actually set up so that the current generation funds the retirees.
When I
and-
was your age,
Mhm.
there were 16 people paying into the system and one taking out. Today, there are 3 people paying into the system and one taking out.
But isn't that
And
the
in
good
15
news is
years,
that-
there were 2 people paying it. What's
But-
good news about that?
Well, didn't they plan for that? Which is why they
Of course
actually have
not,
been.
because they thought they thought you would die
Uh-huh.
at 57. That's why they set the date at 65.
Uh-huh.
If you can't get through this stuff, then why do you spread this crap? This thing was set up when the life expectancy was 57 years. That's why they set 65 as the retirement date. Now the life expectancy is 78, whatever it is.
Right.
And so we have to adjust that and make it work for the future people like you in the United States.
But here's one question on that, but thanks again for being so frank. Life expectancy is not equally distributed across the incomes spectrum,
That's
right?
true. We know that.
The life expectancy gains is actually this 5.5 years difference
We know
between
that.
the wealthiest.
We talk about that.
Right. So
we talk about everything you know, but you know, if you just want to use flash words and run around.
No flash words. I really wanted to zero in on a few things, and you've hit most of them.
Then just
But
use honesty.
I'm being honest.
Yeah.
The worthless IOUs has been actually, that goes all the way back
They're
to
not
1936.
worthless. They're IOUs in there.
Backed by the full faith in government of the
That's correct.
full faith and
You got it. Full faith and credit.
credit. There we go.
That's absolutely true. But
So they're bonds just like any other bond.
That's right.
Right,
But
that the
they're-
government has to pay
But they're
back.
not third people involved. It's the government and the government.
Well, except it's actually the government and the citizens, right? The government doesn't own the bonds. It's actually the government owing.
Let me just say it in a way so your fans will understand it, so you can go and be a hero. There's not enough in the system by the month to pay in, to pay out what comes in. In other words, there is more going out than coming in. That happened 3 or 4 weeks ago. So what do? They go to that trust fund and say, we need the IOUs out of there. And they say, well, you can have them, but you got to pay for them. So you're taking a double hit on your own government. It makes no sense. The government goes and says, hey, here's that $2.5 trillion IOUs. Now we need some money out of that system because we haven't got enough to pay this month. And they say, great. So the government gets a double hit. What's the worth of that?
Well, that's what I'm wondering
And
about.
if you do this,
Thanks so much, Senator.
anyway, I'd be glad to visit with you on
Yeah,
that.
definitely, because we obviously have a very different understanding
Yes, we do, but
of
we
the
all
system.
are involved in one thing, not secrecy.
No, I understand that. It's just in my understanding from actually looking at in the 1983 commission, they actually started pre-funding the retirement of the baby boom by building up that huge
They
surplus.
never knew there was a baby boom in '83. That's just
But actually, they knew that there was going to be demographic issues when they set up Social Security. So they actually
They
predicted.
never dreamed that the life expectancy would go from 57 years of age to 78 or 75 or whatever. Who would dream that? No one. They just died. People worked. Social Security was never a retirement. It was set up to take care of poor guys in the Depression who lost their butts, who were digging ditches, and it was to give them 43% of their wages when they got out. That's what it was. It was never a retirement. It was an income supplement.
Right. Well, it's actually an income insurance, right? It's a wage insurance program to replace lost wages due to death, disability, or old age, which was actually. But it's the reason it's definitely an insurance program, meaning that the people own the insurance, right? They're giving money in expectation that it's their money to come out,
That's
right?
And
so that's why I was
going to get their money, but right now, to get their money, which has all been used, and it consists of treasury bills, and
right.
the government has to go to get it out of there and pay it and say, here's some money for you so that you don't diminish the $2.5 trillion. But you've got your government putting up money, which increases the deficit, to get this money out to go to the beneficiary. We got to make it work.
But that's not Social Security that's increasing the deficit, because it's still bringing in more money than it goes out.
The government of the United States has to take separate money out of some stack to get the IOUs out of Social Security. That's a double hit, and that increases the deficit. I mean, just have to believe me.
Yeah. But what I'm telling you is that Social Security is separate, though, from the general budget, right? So Social Security,
we don't even count it as if
it's totally in the green. It's actually bringing.
And it wasn't. It just 4 weeks ago there wasn't as much coming in as went out.
Except you're not calculating the interest paid on the bonds, because if you do include that, it's still in the green this year.
And you can go through all the sophistry of babbling that you want to.
It's not sophistry. It's just what the SSA says. So I'm just going on the numbers.
You need to read the report of the Social Security Administration, the one that was given to us. Have you got that copy?
So, I'd love a copy of what you're seeing.
You that.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll have a guy give that. You need to have that, and it's good for you.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Thanks so much, Senator.
Listen, I hope you got as much out of that as I did. I'm going to break it down for you a little bit, okay? The reason I played that long thing for you is because, one, you never see that on television. They never ask them real questions. Those were fantastic questions by Alex Lawson. Number two, it gives you a great, when someone actually asked them that question, it gave you a great mindset into how these guys are thinking. Because here's a guy who's going to make those decisions for you. And I always wonder, like, are they genuine and they don't understand the scope of the problem or the reality of the problem, or are they malicious? They know, but they're looking to rob your Social Security money, etc. What I got out of that is that Alan Simpson genuinely believes what he's saying, but it's so ingrained in his head the way that things have been going that he can't see outside of it. And when the guy gives him facts or gives him numbers, he goes, look, enough with that sophistry or babbling, okay? All I know is we're taking a double hit. So now let me explain that stuff to you, if you're not already familiar with it, okay? So when he says double hit, he's saying, look, we got $2.5 trillion that we were supposed to pay into a Social Security trust fund so that when you retired, you go, oh, okay, I'd like to take that, and you would take it and because you paid into it. That's your $2.5 trillion. Except they already spent it. So now they don't get to raid the Social Security surplus anymore, so that's your first hit. So because that was adding hundreds of billions of dollars to every budget for decades. So now they can't spend that extra money because it isn't there, because there's more people retiring, less people paying for it, as they explain there. Plus, they have to actually pay out those IOUs. So that's the double hit to the budget. Now, Alan Simpson's right about that, but then he doesn't think, oh my God, I can't believe we spent the money that the American people put into their retirement fund. He thinks, well, too bad, it's already spent. And you know what? It's gone. Those IOUs are gone. I got to find a way to cut it so that, we can make it solvent. As Alex Lawson says there, he's like, it is solvent. That's not, and this was insurance. They paid into it so that they could retire off of it. And he says, look, no. When they first did Social Security, people were dying at the age of 57. They put it at 65 and thought, well, nobody's ever actually going to get this money. Do you get that rationale? They're thinking, we never intended to pay you in the first place. We thought you were going to die at 57. Now people are paying living to 78, right? And he says, well, of course we don't have that money to give you that you put into the system because we already spent it on our projects. And when he says, like, on the wars and on the tax cuts, he says, no, on highways. Yeah, you can babble or give me that bullshit, but we spent it on highways. Come on, now, wait a minute. Did they spend it on highways? Yes, they did. Okay, but is that the only thing in the United States budget? Or, do we have it wrong? And they took the Social Security money and only apportioned it to infrastructure. They didn't. I'm 100% positive of it. We know the facts. What they did was they took it and they spent it on everything, including the wars, including the tax cuts, including all that stuff. But he doesn't want to admit it. When the establishment is pressed on the highway robbery of those Social Security money, they say, oh, no, it all went for good cause. We built highways. Because he doesn't want to admit it. They took it, it's gone, okay? So what's their plan? They have 15 different ways that they're going to cut your Social Security. That's what he was talking about when he said the 15 ways. One of them is they're going to raise the retirement age. Lawson says, hey, wait a minute, if you raise the retirement age, isn't that a way of saying the people who already put in with this expectation, too bad, we're basically breaking that contract and we're going to take a significant amount of money away from you because we're going to pay you out later. That's, again, indisputable. That's math, okay? And he's like, look, we didn't expect you to live so damn long when we took your money. And we built highways or something, okay? It was for a good purpose. Does Alan Simpson, look, I think he's being genuine. I think he really has internalized this stuff. Does he have any intention of raising taxes or cutting defense? Did you get any of that from that video? I know they were talking just about Social Security. But I looked at that and I thought, no. This guy, and he's representative of all the guys on that commission. Of course, he's not, everybody's got a slightly different opinion, but what he represented there, I know from having read the other people's reports and where they lean, etc., he represents pretty much the establishment. No, that commission is to find a way to take your Social Security money. And that's not he says it's a scare tactic, et cetera. It's not, look, I'm not part of any agenda. Today on television, somebody accused me of taking labor money. I wish. I don't have any labor money. I'm not part of any agenda. I'm telling you what's happening. And to them, they don't think it's a big deal because Alan Simpson and all 18 of the people on that commission don't rely on Social Security. They don't rely on Medicare. Yeah, they use Medicare. Social Security is nice. It helps them with their country club fees. But it's true. It's true. They don't need it. They don't understand how much you need it. And they don't understand that you paid into it and that it's not bullshit, $2.5 trillion of IOUs that they got to find a way to cut. And they keep lying to you, and that's why Lawson did a great job there. I don't know this guy. I've never heard of Alex Lawson before. But he did a great job in asking him. They paid into it. It's not insolvent. It had a huge surplus. What did you do with it? And Alan Simpson thinks it's, water under the bridge. And on top of all of that, did you see how condescending he was to him the whole time? As Lawson is asking him one legitimate question after another. He's not used to it. He's used to television where they pamper him and go, oh, yes, please. Please tell us about how you're going to cut Social Security and Medicare. And you have to. And you don't have any other choices. Please tell us that. And when he's challenged on it, he's like, look at you and your bullshit and your sophistry and your crap. Okay, leave me alone. I'm trying to cut people's retirement money. See, look, I'm going to tie it back to Obama because I have to. I don't have a choice. Okay, I got to tell you what the reality is. I heard that on Daily Kos that they were yelling at Keith Olbermann for challenging Obama. All right. What do I want to do with Daily Kos? Look, I'm going to stop talking about that. I'm going to ignore people who can't see straight because of their teams. It drives me crazy when Republicans do it. It drives me crazy when Democrats do it. Look, if Bush had proposed this deficit commission, the Democrats would have cried bloody murder, and everybody would have fought it, and all the progressive groups would have fought it, and we might have even won because people don't want their Social Security or Medicare cut, okay? There's a reason why that's the third rail in politics. But it isn't Bush. It's Obama. So when Obama says, let's do this deficit commission, and don't worry, they're going to be fair and neutral, and we should do, and this is literally a part of it, they're saying that they should do an up or down vote on this. No amendments, no debate. Whatever comes out of this commission, you get a rubber stamp. Now you get to vote no on it, yes or no, okay? But none of the other procedures, none of the other stuff that health care or financial reform had to go through. And Obama says, this is my stamp of approval. This is a good commission. And he knows it's to cut Social Security and Medicare. And he put 14 out of 18 guys on that commission are what they euphemistically call fiscally conservative. He packed it with conservatives. Then how can you not get disillusioned with Obama? The only way not to get disillusioned with Obama is that you're not paying attention and you think, I got a D on my helmet and Team Democrat, so Obama must be good. No, look, I got to be honest with you. He's hosing you in 18 different ways. With this, with the CEO pay, with what he did with the drug companies and the healthcare reform, every single... No. Look, I was going to get carried away. Not every single thing. But so much of it is in favor of the largest corporations and the richest people in America. If you thought that was going to change, well, you got a rude awakening coming your way. That is not changing. That is how it is. Last thing on that. Look, Obama is a natural-born politician. He bends to the right all the time. Today, Joe Wilson was in the news. Remember the guy who yelled out, "You lie," in the middle of his speech in Congress? Remember, the very next week, they gave in to Joe Wilson and changed the bill to cut out immigrants, the health care bill. I mean, Obama will bend to any pressure from the right. Any pressure, right? That's why I'm telling you, it's so important to create a powerful left. Because if you create a powerful left that's kicking his ass, then he's going to bend to you because he's a politician. He bends to power, okay? He's not strong. He bends. Now, so far, he's not going to bend to the left because he thinks you don't have any power. He thinks you're just plebeians. You're, as the chairman of BP said, you're the small people, right? So small people get this treatment. Get off of me, right? Well, make him get to the point where he can't get you off of him, where all of a sudden you're on his back and he doesn't know how to get you off. And then he goes, okay, all right, I bend my head, okay? What would you like? We've got to get to that point. If you don't make him bend his head, he's never going to give a damn about you. He's a politician. And he's just going to steamroll you and just give these guys who are powerful, who are making him bow his head, he's going to give them whatever they want. You could hate me for saying that, but that's the reality, and it's based on things like this, and that's why I ran that 8-minute long video. That was a perfect snapshot into the establishment. They're planning to take your money. Now the question is, are you going to let them? Young. All right, back on the Young Turks. Now, we were just telling you about how conservatives are indifferent to your concerns because they don't understand it. They don't live in your world. They live in their world where everybody's perfectly rich and don't need Social Security or Medicare or anything else. Now, we have a great example of that. Rush Limbaugh and his program is going to be talking about the free lunch program that kids who can't afford lunch get so they don't go hungry in the middle of the school day. Now, summer is coming up, so they won't be getting that free lunch anymore, and there's concern about, hey, are they going to have enough food to eat? But Rush lives in a mansion in Palm Beach. I read a book about it. He literally has his staff, his maids and his butlers, light scented candles before he comes into his house so that he has the right aroma in the house. He owns dozens of cars. He owns a $54 million jet. Okay, you know, he made that money however he made it. It's okay, I'm not begrudging it. But I'm just telling you that in the context of he doesn't understand what it means to be poor or to be hungry. And he's going to give this incredibly condescending little segment on it. It starts out pretty bad and gets downright ugly by the end. This is what he thinks of poor people. Let's watch.
Then a companion story from AOL News. Record number of U.S. kids facing summer of hunger. With the screwl year ending in communities across America, more than 16 million children face a summer of hunger. While classes were in session, they relied on free or discount. And this, of course, takes into no account that the parents, I guess, just going to sit around and let their kids starve. Why, if the kids don't do it, they're going to starve. If the schools don't do it, the kids are going to starve. God, we can't escape these people. We just can't escape them. They live in the utter deniability of basic human nature. They actually have it in their heads somehow that parents are so rotten that they will let their kids go hungry and starve unless the schools take care of it. And you know what we're going to do here? We're going to start a feature on this program, Where to Find Food. For young demographics, where to find food. Now that school is out, where to find food. We can have a daily feature on this, and this will take us all the way through the summer. Where to find food. And of course, the first will be try your house. It's a thing called the refrigerator. You probably already know about it. Try looking there. There are also things in what's called the kitchen of your house, called cupboards. And in those cupboards, most likely, you're going to find ding-dongs, Twinkies, Lay's Ridgy potato chips, all kinds of dip, and maybe a can of corn that you don't want. But it will be there. If that doesn't work, try a Happy Meal at McDonald's. You know where McDonald's is. There's the dollar menu at McDonald's, and if they don't have chicken McNuggets, dial 911 and ask for Obama. There's another place, if none of these options work to find food, there's always the neighborhood dumpster. Now, you might find competition with homeless people there, but there are videos that have been produced to show you how to healthfully dine and how to dumpster dive and survive until school kicks back up in August. Can you imagine the benefit we would provide people?
What do you do with a guy this ugly? I mean, he lives, again, in the book that I read about Rush Limbaugh, he goes and, you know, eats at the finest restaurants, has waiters waiting on him hand and foot, etc. He's got this, he doesn't get it, man. He says, duh, go to your refrigerator. Yeah, Rush, did you ever think that they're poor? They might not have the same things in their fridge that you have? Did that ever frickin' occur to you? That maybe that they are embarrassed, but they go and take this free lunch program or food stamps, even though they hate taking it, but they do it because they don't have a choice because they got to feed their kids, and that they don't want them running through dumpsters? And look at that. I mean, at the end, he just came out and said, the poor, you belong in dumpsters. I don't want to give you any of my money at all. No matter how much the government provided for me to get me to where I am, I don't care. I don't care about the community. I don't care about your family values. I don't care about anything. I just want to keep all my money. And if that means you kids have to play through dumpsters, then I laugh at you. Ha 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 ha! Why don't you find food in a dumpster? You know, people wonder, why do we think Rush Limbaugh is vile? That's why. Young Turks.